your standards are too high. You kind of need to lower them a bit if you're ever going to land a man, or if you're ever going to attract a suitable woman. Yo, friends and family, don't know it's your boy Darren, coming at you again with another episode of the worst relationship advice ever. You definitely should not listen to me because it's bare rubbish, be a chat. You see me, I'm just talking off the top of my head. I have no script, no nothing. I'm just talking how I feel. Just sharing my opinion. I am not a trained professional. I have no degree in psychology. I just have my experience and we just know little Bible. That's all. You know what I'm saying? And we're continuing the topic of, how to be successfully single. And so in this episode, I'll be talking about the 5 elements that make up successful singleness. Yeah? It sounds counterintuitive to say successful singleness. You hear more about successful relationships, right? And I'm sure lots of you who are, watching me, listening to me, you're here for that purpose. You probably desire to have a successful relationship, right? So that's the information that you want. But may I propose that possibly some of the struggles that you're having in your relationships are because you are not successfully single first. Yeah. If you are sad and depressed in your singleness and believe that a romantic relationship or a marriage is going to fix all that, you are sadly mistaken. Let's look at the 5 things that are necessary for successful singleness. So they are: 1, God, of course; 2, boundaries and standards; 3, purpose; 4, contentment; 5, friendships. Yes, those are the things you need to be successfully single. So let's talk about God. So, as you all know, our purpose here on this earth is to love and to serve the Lord, right? He is the one who created us. Everything that you see was created by Him. And so He is the one that identifies what everything is for and what is the purpose behind everything. And so if you want to become, acquainted with who you are, you also need to be acquainted with who you belong to. Yeah? And so having a solid relationship with the Lord gives you deeper insight into who you are and what you're here for. And that's very important for how you go about choosing your partner. If you are well acquainted with who God has created you to be, and you line up with a partner who is on that same page as you, that will help to squash a lot of conflict. You won't have to deal with a lot of conflict, or it will inform how you go about conflict resolution. Yeah? I tell you, man, God is so vast. And so our relationship with Him, there's no limit to the depth that can be unlocked in our relationship with God. And so I want to encourage all of you to definitely spend time in prayer, spend time in fasting, spend time in reading your Bible. Read that Bible for yourself. And do not just take whatever the pastor or the bishop or the elder says as gospel, but read it for yourself and get your own revelations from the scriptures, So yeah, that's God. You definitely want to have a good relationship with the Lord. Next, you want to have a purpose, right? You want to have a purpose. So this is, ideal for everybody, both male and female. But I want to speak specifically to the men right now, that we especially need to be acquainted with what our purpose is in life, right? When God made Eve, He made Eve because He saw that Adam needed a helpmate. Adam needed a helpmate because he had a purpose. He had a work. He was on a path, right? And so if you want that in your life as a man, you want to have your purpose before you take onto yourself a wife. so that that wife, whatever her purpose is, she can align her purpose with yours. But your purpose has to be identified. It has to be defined, right? Without that, you'll find it difficult to lead your wife. Without that, you might find that your wife will have difficulty respecting you and submitting to you, as you don't have a vision for where you are going and where you want to take the family. If you're not confident that what you're doing right now has the ability to create wealth for yourself and for your family for generations to come, there's a possibility that it's not your true purpose. If you don't feel passionate about what you're doing, and if you don't really love what you're doing, then it's a strong possibility it is not your purpose in life. Each of us have been given gifts, talents, and things to feel passionate about, things that make us feel upset when we look out into the world and we see certain injustices, we see certain difficulties, we see things that irk us. Those, when we experience these things, those things are actually pointing possibly to what our purpose in life is. Our purpose is to serve God and to serve people. And when it comes on to wealth, the more people you serve, remember that money only comes from other people. So the more people you serve through your gifts and talents, the more people you're able to uplift, is the more wealth you will attract unto yourself. Yeah. And then put on top of that, if you feel passionate about it and you really love what you do, then it is indeed your purpose. Then now your wife can come alongside you to support you in the execution of your purpose on this earth. And when you have two people who are purpose partners doing life together, and there is more than just a romantic reason why they are together, then the likelihood of them staying together through the ups and downs and the challenges and the conflict, the likelihood of that is a lot higher. Yeah? So that's the second thing you need to be successfully single. A sense of purpose, especially from the work that you do. The next thing we need to have is standards and boundaries. Now, this is something that I am finding to be very important, so important. And boy, I tell you, I wish I came to this revelation when I was much younger. I'd probably be a lot better off now. Yeah. I'd probably be more seriously married and settled down and everything if I had better standards and boundaries. If I was not so much of a people pleaser and wanting to, do for people and do with people despite how I felt naturally. I always felt like, it was necessary to compromise. It was necessary to bend and to break and to adjust for the sake of the other person. I always felt like that had to be the case. But really it doesn't. Ideally, you want to be in a relationship with somebody who feels the same way you feel on multiple levels. That way, neither of you need to compromise. Neither of you need to make adjustments. And that would now reduce the amount of conflict you have to deal with, So for those of you who have high standards and you have strict boundaries, sometimes you might hear that, boy, your standards are too high. You kind of need to lower them a bit if you're ever going to land a man, or if you're ever going to attract a suitable woman. I want to debunk that. Like, whatever your standards are, whether they're too high or too low or too thick or too tight or too whatever, they are your standards and you need to stand by them. Yeah. Because those are the things that will inform who you choose, and you can only choose one person. And so while there are gonna be many men and many women who come across our paths who seem like a good option, they have the appearance of goodness. Are they ideal? And you can't really identify whether or not they're ideal if you are not steadfast in your boundaries and standards. You see, you got to respect yourself. You got to love yourself. You got to appreciate yourself. You have to be aware of everything that you are, good, bad, and ugly. Because when it comes on to intimacy in your relationship, acceptance of all of you and you accepting the other person through and through is of paramount importance when it comes on to fostering intimacy. If either of you have to put on a facade or have to act or put on a performance in order to be appealing to the other person, that will not sustain long term. If you're thinking about marriage, 10, 20, 30 years of living with the same person, if you have to put on a performance, if you have to bend and compromise too much, it's not gonna be a fun ride. It's gonna be rough. Not say it can't work. I mean, there are a whole lot of marriage stories out there of people who went about it the hard way. There are many people out there who were not successfully single first before getting into a relationship. But ask them if they didn't pay the price. They surely did. And some people ended up getting divorced, while some people stuck it through even though their relationship was hell. What I'm trying to do now is provide you with some insight, with some information that if applied could possibly save you from the hell part of your relationship in the future. If you are single right now, or if you're in a relationship right now, you could be getting some insight into why you're having a hard time in your relationship right now. Possibly you and your partner weren't in tune with God. Possibly your partner didn't identify his or her purpose, right? And purely made the decision to be with you on the basis that you both like each other and you seem to have a connection. And possibly both of you didn't discuss your boundaries, and possibly one of you crossed the other person's boundary, but the other person, out of a desire to be a people pleaser, just brushed it off and behaved as if it was no big deal, when really it was. And so we need to be honest with ourselves. We need to be honest with ourselves and honest with the people who show interest in us. And all of that is a part of boundaries. Yes? Boundaries, so important. Next is contentment. Yeah, contentment. Contentment is at the very core of where joy comes from, you know? And in this world, man, the lust of the eyes can cause us to feel as if we're missing out. I mean, social media is right there, and I tell you, every time I go onto my Instagram, I'm seeing, relationship stuff. Probably it's because I talk a lot about relationships, but yeah, it's a lot. I'm seeing a lot of married couples. I'm seeing a lot of families, babies. I'm seeing weddings and all these things, and it can make you feel like, boy, you're missing out. It can make you feel like, yo, I'm lonely and nobody don't want me and woe is me. It can make you feel that way. But what if you're content? What if you are okay with where you are right now as a single person? What would that look like? What would that feel like? Would it be liberating? Can you be so content that even if a person shows interest in you, you don't necessarily jump at the opportunity to be in relationship with them, all because they seem like they could be a good fit? But you can be more controlled and calculated in how you approach the relationship with this person who is showing interest, because you're really not in a hurry or anxious to jump into relationship. I know I have definitely been that type of way, where because I'm so eager to be married and have children, that I just go with whomever is showing interest in me. And I've come to realize that that's not cool. That's not cool. That if I stand firm on my own boundaries and standards, once I identify what is not in alignment with my standards and boundaries, then I know that I'm not to move any further with this person. And that's okay. But so much times we want to compromise and try to let this person fit into our mold, that we might fall into the temptation of trying to change a person and try to convince a person of all the things that they need to do to become more suitable. That's not cool. That's not fair to the other person. We should not be trying to change people. We should be loving people for who they are, as they are right now. Okay? And so contentment is very important to unlocking joy in your life, where you can feel genuinely happy where you are right now. Yeah, as a single person. That's a very important part of being successfully single. Yeah. And then the next thing is friendship. Yes. God saw that Adam was alone, and so he made a helper suitable for him. I believe that Eve was his friend, not just his wife, but his friend. Someone he could talk to, someone who spoke the same language as he did, someone who had his best interest at heart, someone who had his back. Friends. The main difference between a person who is just a friend and a person who is your boyfriend, girlfriend, or fiance, or wife, or husband is the romantic aspect. That's the main difference. You remove that romantic, aspect of the relationship, then you have the friendship, right? And as I said before, friendship is a very important part of the foundation of a healthy relationship. Now, having friendships outside of your romantic relationship is very important, because your partner might not be fully equipped to deal with all that comes with you. The traumas, the emotional baggage, the various challenges, the mood swings, all of that. I mean, ideally, we would want our partner to be able to deal with all of that and be able to have the emotional intelligence to deal with all that comes with us. But oftentimes, they don't. They really can't manage that. And so that's why we need friends outside of our partner, or we possibly need even some sort of professional input from a counselor to deal with the various things that come with us, And so, those are the 5 things you need to be successfully single. You need a relationship with the Lord. You need to have a purpose in this life, work that you do that you feel fulfilled and that compensates you in a way that you have confidence in your ability to build your family and to build a legacy. You need to have your boundaries and standards. You need to know yourself, know where you stand, know what is important to you, know your dislikes, your likes, what you will accept, what you will not, so that your decision can be made in an informed manner. You need to be content. It's the tendency and the temptation to jump into a relationship just because you feel sad, just because you feel lonely, just because you feel it's about time is very real when you are not content. You need to be content with where you are, and you need to have friends, at least 1 to 3 good friends. Now, you don't necessarily need to be the most popular person out there, but you just need to have 1 to 3 good platonic friendships, people you can turn to, people you can go to for support, people who will, come to your rescue if needs be. And I tell you, you have those things, you'll find that the only thing that is missing is that romantic aspect of life. And that will come. That will come. You just have to be patient and allow the Lord to deliver that person to you. If you're not anxious to jump into a relationship, if you're not wondering if everybody who shows interest is the one, then you can make the decision to marry a person with a lot more clarity. Yeah? So guys, thank you so much for joining me yet again for another episode of the worst relationship advice ever. I really do hope that this was informative for you. What I'm sharing with you here is a lot of what I have learned from my own personal experiences. Some of the mistakes I have made is what you're seeing coming out in this episode now. Please subscribe, like, share, comment below if what I shared with you here is anything that you disagree with or anything that you don't feel so comfortable about. But yeah, enough love and respect. See you next time.